Okay, so let's look at some charts. I think I'm going to start from the end today. So Tracy, and we have the human design chart. Let's make it bigger. Manifesting generator, and we have a 1-3 profile in the right cross angle of contagion. And I've spoken about this cross many times because I love it. I actually have the second gene key and the first gene key. So they create electromagnetic channels between the G and the sacral and the G and the throat. So we can see that Tracy has the 8 and I have the 1. She has the 14 and I have the 2. So together we would like form, with my personality, Sun and personality Earth, and her personality, Sun and personality Earth, we would form electromagnetic channels. So that means that together we kind of feel like we're more and we have access to more than each one of us. And also, since they are so important, those activations, the most important ones that are in our incarnation cross, we will probably feel it like very strongly. And then also, it's interesting to see that she has the 29 and I have the 46, but she also has the 46, which means that she's actually compromising my 46 because she has both. So if I would try to be stronger than her in these activations, in my 46, for example, that wouldn't work. She would always energetically kind of win over me because she has the whole channel. So these are ways that you can start looking at your chart and with people that are in your life and see, what are they, what are their activations, and do you have any of those very important, the ones that are, for example, in your incarnation cross, that you are forming either electromagnetics, that you have half the channel and the other person has half the channel, or that you have half and the other person has the whole channel. Because when we have electromagnetics, half, then it's really like a wow. And when we have a compromise, in the beginning it can feel like a wow, but after some time, the person that only has one hanging gate and not the whole channel often feels a bit kind of, overpowered is a good word from the other person. And also the fact that this is a 1-3 profile, I'm a 4-6, that also means that we are harmonic in the way that we would, interact, because the first line is the first line of the first trigram, the fourth line is the first line of the second trigram. So there we have a resonance or harmonic, and then the third and the sixth line are the same, the first trigram and the second trigram. So when you have a 1-3 profile and a 4-6, that's also profiles that work very well together. And we have a 1-3, so we see that we have a personal destiny here. Somebody is here to investigate and be empowered and play and experience for their own sake. They don't really need to entangle themselves with other in the sense that that's the way that they fulfill their destiny. So that's good to know. And sometimes when we have 1-3s, we might think they're a little bit concentrated on themselves. And one of their challenges is really to include others and even to learn to serve others. So the question for 1-3 is kind of not always asking what's in it for me, but actually serve the whole as well and see how much reward that can actually give you, because you become even more empowered, and you are here to be bold and empowered so that other people can be inspired by you. And that happens mostly when you actually do interact with others. So that's one of the challenges for the first line, to really come up from the investigation or the basement or your ideas and to interact with others. And also, it's that when you have the 8.1 as your life's work or as your personality sun, you really want to show your style in the world. You want to be yourself. You want to be very, very, very sure of being able to share that style and that competence in the world, sharing it with others, serving others with your competence. Those are the key things for you to, what we say in the Gene Keys, break through to your soul purpose. And your soul purpose has more to do with play, with experience, with lightness, with devotion for the things that you really want to commit to. That for you, often the commitment is to the experience, so that you commit to be in the experience from the moment it starts to the moment that it has its natural endings. We can also see that you have a lot of integration circuitry. So that together with being a 1-3 can be a little bit of being kind of in your own process and going about your own things with your own intuition, with your own life force, with your own behavior. And you're here to be like that. And that's beautiful. And it feels like whoever you're going to be with in your life, that person has to be able to see the beauty of that functioning in you. The integration circuit is so beautiful in that way. That's how we evolve. That's how we go about things in new ways, and either those way work or they don't work. So it's a powerful circuitry. That's the 57, the 34, the 10, and the 20. So the only gate of these four that you don't have is the 20. So it's a lot of integration circuitry, and we can also see that you have it red and black. So it's both on the unconscious and the conscious sides. It's both your soul and your personality wants to experience with this. We can also see that you have this channel of talent. You both have the depth and the versatility. This is a very beautiful channel, and you have it. It's part of your Uranus. It's part of your creativity. And where do we have the 18 or 16? Yeah, so stability and creativity. Interesting combination to have this in Saturn and Uranus. It's the big planets, and it's probably things that are, really there in your life somehow. It would be interesting to look at your astrology as well to see if there are any aspects between these two. So I would love to hear, the kind of everything that you've done, and also the wisdom that you have gained for everything you've done. And a lot of things for the 1-3 is that you bump into things. And then you have this completely open ego that has to do with worthiness and has to do with not having to prove yourself to the world. And with a completely open ego, that's really a theme that you're here to become really wise about, because you can have a lot of feeling in your life as a 1-3. You're here to be empowered and bold, so you kind of want to show that to the world. The open center, though, tells you that you don't have anything to prove, and if you go into that wheel of the mouse or the rat or the hamster running in the wheel, you can bypass your life path or your life destiny easily. And the same thing with the open head and Ajna. If you don't embrace the fact that you're very open and that you're here to be built to hold many different perspectives and really have a farsightedness about you, and inquiry, that not make conclusions that are forever, but really have this farsightedness and that inquiry. If you don't embrace that, but try to be certain about things and try to prove your point and try to be very fixed in your opinions, that could also be another way of bypassing this the lightness and the playfulness and the experience and your own unique style that probably comes from being versatile and being different and not being fixed. You can also see that you have the 31, for example. This is a leadership theme that is there, and it's part of your soul. And it's something that it's the south node of your design. So you have that leadership in you from your environment or for past lifetimes. So interesting how that comes out. And it's a little bit a new kind of leadership that you come into, which is the 41, which is a bit more like starting something new. It's a start codon and an anticipation of what's coming. So it's a new kind of leadership that you might tap into in this life. And also, or you find a new magic in structures and new magic that comes from inspiration in a new way, where structures become something that you can use instead of feeling limited by, and maybe a little bit less of the distraction or the busyness that can happen in this integration circuitry, for example, or having this 56 that is just kind of traveling the world and finding new input and new what do you say, ways of being stimulated. It's more that 60 comes in with a new kind of reality that you're probably, the north node comes in after 40. So you're in that age now that you can start tapping into your north node and those and the wisdom that is there, while you integrate the shadows of the south node, which would be that distraction or even that kind of arrogance, because you have that with you. You have a certain, if you have a strong profile, you have a lot of centers and activations that are powerful. And it's not about overpowering others with these, but it's really more about being being that empowered being who can inspire others by your own empowerment. And then again, this is another theme that just reinforces the 1-3 profile, the 40-1-30, that you are here to have experiences that kind of mark you and that you live through. You are an emotional being, so you want to feel a lot, you want to experience a lot. And as we always say in human design, don't make decisions in the highs and the lows. They are going to be there. Your life is on a wave, and that's how you function. So you want to make sure that you are somebody who can respond to life and who can feel life, that has a lot of intuition, and at the same time you want to just be aware of the emotional wave, so that doesn't kind of make the decisions for you. And as a manifesting generator, what we say as well is that when you don't have energy for something anymore, don't force yourself to continue. You're not here to force yourself when there's no energy, because that's the way that you can burn yourself out. And the Neptune activation, you have 46 twice. So seriousness is not a good thing. That could also make you like veil what you're here to do, which is something powerful. The 51-21 is again like kind of a leadership theme, and a tribal and also kind of shamanic way of well, that's actually your Chiron. Oh, that's an interesting chart. I thought it was your Pluto. Okay, so Pluto, interesting. Yeah, so what could actually veil your destiny, it's not a 46 in the seriousness so much. It's more when you're forcing things and trying to like put a square peg in a round hole. That kind of forcing, or that kind of deafness that you have in this integration circuitry, could be what doesn't allow you to really enjoy the experience of being here in physical form and saying yes to the experience, because you're kind of so busy forcing something, a result or something. And then Chiron is interesting because it's a powerful, the 51 is powerful in the 21 too. And it's again something about authority and being maybe sometimes even too powerful. That's something that wants to heal in this lifetime, and could have to do with that 31 when it's pushed instead of just kind of guiding. So yeah, interesting. I could say, I mean, there are more and more charts where I see that Chiron is also part of it, which Ra didn't really see as something that more so like a rock that was like circulating in our solar system. Being into evolutionary astrology, though, I see that there is a lot of beauty, and that often when we look at Chiron and the rest of the chart, it makes sense. So for me to have it in the chart is actually beautiful, because sometimes it actually tells us quite a lot. So yeah, and then let's go. Do I have two? Steven has two. So let's change it up a little bit and look at, I'm going to write it down so I can tag you. And I kind of like to see the year of birth and all that, but we don't have it. Doesn't matter. So here we have a 2-4 profile. So the challenge here is relationships. And what we say for the 2-4 is that we really want you to fulfill yourself first and then interact with the world, because then you're never going to fall into the shadow of disappointment. So the one-liner we say for 2-4 profile, you see point 2 on the life's work and evolution, and then point 4 on the radiance and purpose, is to break out of disappointment by fulfilling yourself first, so that you make sure that you have your naturalness, your ease, that you have your flow, and then you interact with the world. That's going to really help you to go into also the right relationships, the friendships, and the ones that make you feel like you can expand and that you're breathing. Those are the relationships that you get access to through the challenge, through breaking through the challenge of that fulfillment of your own, of your own needs, you could say. But not only needs, it's more like your own joy in one way. When the 4 profile, make sure that you have that joy and that flow, everything opens up. And you can see here also in the culture and the core. This is interesting, it says core and not vocation. I guess it's the old profile. You have the 46 twice, exactly like we had in the profile we just looked at. So it's this love of being here in physical form, and you have it. It's really core part of what you're here to share with the world. And like we always say, you kind of have to activate your green spheres and the red spheres, like the inner, the relationship and the inner work and the emotional work and all that. But really what you're here to do in the world is to show the world in flow and in ease, and in your own unique way, how valuable it is to be here and to be and have a human experience. And it's so much about the light and ecstasy, and not about the seriousness, and not about the disappointment. And it's about saying yes to the moment and to the senses. So also for you, you are grounded in your breath. So you want to, in your heart, you want to be using your 4th chakra to kind of ground on this plane. You're not, you're somebody who, everybody needs a foundation, and the 4th line purpose has to do with, it's a higher octave of the 1st line that is really grounded in physicality. So you have that as an underlying theme, but the focus is often to be, to be able to be heart-centered. So that's why those friendship and relationships are so important for you, so that you can really find your grounding in that. And I can see that you also have the 42 twice. So there is a little bit the same thing as we were saying with that 34 in the other profile, that it's kind of forcing its way, and it's a little bit deaf for outside influence. It's part of the individual circuitry. So you want to be sure that you don't complicate things. It has to do with that seriousness. You can see how those shadow frequencies go together. You want to make sure that you don't just go about things in a way of forcing them, or that you're kind of complicating them. You have that simplicity in the purpose, the programming partner of the 43. And since this is the EQ, so the EQ has to do with our emotional defenses and things that came up when we were 7 or 8 to 14. So there is something there with the 43 where maybe you kind of turned off a little bit. Something happened, there was some emotional triggers, and it made you feel like actually didn't want to hear it because it wasn't kind, probably. You have that 4th line. There is something in that age where you can have go into like a little bit of a cold mood. And that's so important for you as a 4th line soul or unconscious, that 4th line comes back into warmth, and that your heart is part of your life, and that you are able to share from the heart with others. So that's part of how you can start to join the intellectual intelligence with the emotional intelligence. It's really to include the heart and to come into insight also with the times when maybe it felt like something wasn't kind, or something in a relationship level with other people felt like you needed to close the heart, because otherwise you would be hurt. So part of that soul journey and part of that emotional maturity that is in you is to gain insight about that, so that you can be able to live with an open heart again. And I feel like I want to look at the human design a little bit to kind of understand how everything moves in the body. Yeah, so it also tells you, I feel like when there is a split, there can also be always be this tendency to either live from these 2 centers or those 2 centers. So you want to combine them, and you want to have something strong, and your life is probably going to have some kinds of shocks in it. You can see that from this 51-25. And again, the answer for you is to always be including the heart. And the heart is what I say, it's not a pink cloud. The heart or love is something that is so big and so warm in a way, so that it can burn down anything that hurts or anything that we don't want anymore. That's the kind of love, especially here in the 25. It's universal love. It's really what says, whatever shock life has given me, I am able to just include it, to kind of integrate it So that is an important thing for you, and that's also how you get access to the beauty of being actually really happy to be here in human form. And that's also how you can behave in a way so that you can feel that self-love, and so that you can feel that you're in the right environment, and also inspire others to feel that, so that it looks like your life is all about ease and naturalness, although you have had those experiences that have been very powerful, it looks like. And then the same thing as the other chart, to always remain in that, to have that bigger perspective. It is your north node, so there can be, and this was your pearl, I could see as well, you have the 18 twice, so there can be this tendency of kind of wanting to go into a fixed opinion or judgment about something, and you're really asked to not go into that, to not be the person who just points out everything that is wrong. That could be that 18 in an open splenic center. So just is really good at pointing out what's wrong, and then you are again, and you have it many times. I can see the 17 as well. So then you actually don't create space for those relationships that are the true friendships, where there's the real heart connection, because you kind of function out of the conditioning to point out things that are wrong, or to live in, to kind of feel that conflict that is around you and amplifying it in a way in that sticks. So you have a little bit of, I would say for you, a little bit of this challenge are the open centers, because you have quite a lot of open centers. Your sacral is not defined, and that's always when we say that there is a little bit more of the projector for not fragility, but like sensitivity. So that's a beautiful thing, but you want to learn the open center. So you don't want to think about things that don't matter. You don't want to hold on to things that are not good for you physically, emotionally, or spiritually or mentally. You want to be careful with your energy, what you put that into, and where you put in your competence and ways, again, so that you don't compromise and put it into things that don't give you recognition, that don't give you anything back. You want to be around people that can see that you are a diamond. So that's why you fulfill yourself first. You go out in the world in your flow, and then the right people are going to recognize you. You have that strong theme of recognition, because your pearl is the 18-2, and then the projector aura, and you don't want to listen to the stress and pressure that people put on you. And the same thing with the emotions. There are a lot of emotions that are distorted out there, but to not always go into reaction and conflict and pointing out what's wrong, but to be able to more see this, and to be able to even mirror it back, so that people can integrate their emotions that might be distorted, but you don't need to go into your own shock about it, or even maybe shock others with it, with that powerful 25-51 that you have. So yeah, this is a lot of information. And yeah, the 46 for you is powerful. It's about your creativity, and it's also about what you're here. You have it 4 times. So that 46, it's like you're here to really show the world how amazing it is to be a human being. But that's also in one way your biggest challenge, because it is your core wound, and it is that core wound of separation. That 45-6 that feels like you might even have come to the wrong planet. So more and more, as you know, in your life, the more that you go into your Venus sequence and your unravel, you claim back your emotional intelligence, and you make sure to not like run away with your mind. This is a very strong activation. It has the mind in the 17, and also that super quick evasive mind in the 3. Like once you reclaim your true intelligence, once you find the passions and live out your passions and make that inner child, you know, feeling like it can be itself, it can behave like it wants, you parent your inner child, then you really tap into that 46. That is part of your creativity, part of what you create in the world, part of what you share. And maybe you share it with people kind of in partnership, like one-to-one. That's a very powerful way of sharing for you. That's when you really can penetrate, the aura of the other and share. So it's a good way for you to share with the world in 2 and 2, like one other person, so that you can really tap into their aura. So I would love to hear actually what you're doing, what your profession is, what you're doing in the world, and how that inner process of unlocking the core wound of separation and feeling like you might not be in the right place. It will be interesting to hear about that, and just see that there's so much flow and so much passion and so much possible, just really beautiful relationships, so much mirroring possible for you when you learn or decide to not be ruled by the open centers and how they can condition you in ways that are taking you away from your true genius. So actually I'm going to stop here so that it doesn't become a super long video, and I'll come back and do a couple of other charts later. Bye.